Hi everyone, Sue Matsuki here with another Sue's Views. This time I'm going to talk a little bit about reviews. Someone once said to me, "You're not as good as your best review, and you're certainly not as bad as your worst." Everyone has an opinion. Everyone. Now, art overall is subjective. Let's face it. You look at a piece of art and it will speak to me and it won't speak to the person next to me. Voices, music, song choices, show concepts are all subjective to whoever's attending the show. Was there something in the show that I related to? Was there something about this person's voice I admired? Was the direction of the show something I admired? Do I want to work with that director? All of these things are incredible things to look at, and they are factors and things that reviewers will look at, the whole picture: who, what, where, when, and why. The why seems to be very important to a lot of our reviewers in the industry. Now, there's not that many reviewers left, and there's not that many people who aren't singers who are reviewing. A couple years back, when I worked for Stu Hamstra's Cabaret Hotline Online, I had left the singing community for about 3 years and I was reviewing. Now, I made the personal choice not to sing as I was reviewing because I do believe that there was a conflict of interest in having another singer appear, if you will, review somebody else's show. However, when I was writing on and off for Cabaret Hotspot with David Sabella, I decided that because of my tenure in the business, if I were going to review anybody, it was going to be with their permission. And this was because I felt like if a peer wanted me in their room just as a friend, I would pay and I would go see that show as a friend. If an up and comer wanted me there to review them because they were starting the press kit, I did feel qualified to go into an up and comer show and review them because of my tenure in the business. I still am on the fence and not comfortable with singers reviewing while they are also performing. I'm sorry for those of you who are doing this. This is not a personal attack on you. I know that you're doing your jobs, and we're very, very grateful to have your voice and the reviews for your entities. But there are very few people. The Bistro Committee are all composed of professional writers and professional people who direct and produce and do things like that. So that's why I think those reviews and those awards are more coveted, because it's earned by respected people in the community. But I want to talk about how we feel about reviews. We get reviewed, and sometimes we're slammed, and sometimes they're constructive, and sometimes they're kind of in the middle. Sometimes they're so glowing, but there's no credential as to who and what that person is on what level. I saw a review done for an up and comer who, yes, were leagues better the next couple shows that they did. Absolutely fantastic, huge jump. But they were still not on par with a Karen Mason. Everything I say is about Karen Mason. I have a Karen Mason bar, by the way, if you haven't noticed that already. I always say, what would Karen Mason do? But I'm just saying that if you, as an up and comer, receive this glowing review that was deserved because your work really, really got better, but a person out of town reading that review is thinking you are on par with someone like Karen Mason because that review was stellar, that's not fair to the performer. That's not fair to anyone else that the reviewer has written for because it diminishes everybody else's review if they're that praising of someone who is not quite on the food chain that this review indicated they might be. When I used to review, I used to write, this person's new to the business, and I'd write a glowing review, but it was always specified that it was that this person was an up and comer. There was one person who I went to the show, the very first show, and she was so good that I put in her review that the next time I reviewed her, I was going to review her on the regular level because her debut show was so good. It was already on that level to be reviewed on the regular level and not as an up and comer. So you see where things get a little bit muddy. And then the person reading that review, of course, is thrilled. They're going to use those quotes everywhere. And then the rest of the community is going to be like, what? So there's a legitimacy to reviews that have some kind of constructive comment uh, to the singers. My favorite reviewer of all time, and he was tough on me at times, was Roy Sander. Roy was always constructive. He didn't care if he had a personal relationship with you. He went to a show each and every time to look at the show within his filter as a reviewer, and he reviewed that way. I got so much usable information from the little constructive things that he offered me along all the years that he has watched my career, that his word was the Bible to me on in terms of where I needed to take myself to the next level and how I could take myself to the next level. So I'm just doing this little interview, Sue's Views, to give you a heads up on don't buy all the hype, but also don't believe the crap. Some people go into a room ready to write a review because they have a preconceived notion of who you are. Maybe they don't like you personally. Who knows what kind of day they had. And that review will come out through that filter for that particular evening. I have read a couple of those reviews. I read one that was so harsh on a singer that I adore. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it was the same person that the reviewer was speaking about. And when I read the review, I actually agreed with a couple of things that were said in the review in relation to this person. But there's so many other ways, constructive ways to make those points. So I am speaking to you reviewers out there who may be watching this. There's so many other constructive ways of saying those same things to a person that won't make them not want to step on a stage again. That's not your job. Your job is not to do that. Your job is to review a show, let the public know if it's worth their $20 cover charge, and then give somebody a couple quotable quotes if the show is decent, or give them constructive criticism so they can try to really strive to pop up their own personal bar the next time they do a show. All right, again, my opinion, my views, which is why it's called Sue's Views. Take it or leave it, listen or don't. I hope to see you next time, and I hope this has been helpful to some of you who might be licking wounds from a bad review or over imploded with a very good one. Just saying, always in the middle somewhere. Take care, everyone. See you soon.